Let's talk about Beast Boy Animal Kingdom in my DC cinematic universe. We start off in the country of Zambesi as we witness an army siege the capital. But what's weird about this army is that they are populated by superpowered animals. We then cut over to the Justice League, where we see that Beast Boy is being put in charge of finding out what the fuck is happening in Zambesi. And he assembles a team consisting of himself, Vixen, as she's from Zambesi originally, and a new metahuman, someone who got their powers during the crisis, who has only recently joined the Justice League and is kind of looking to earn his stripes. His name is Buddy Baker, and he's been calling himself the Animal Man. Vixen herself has a personal stake in this mission, as the general that performed this coup and took over the country of Zambesi is her uncle, Mustafa Makai, as he was the man who killed her mother while trying to get the Tantu Totem, the source of her powers. On the plane ride over to Zambesi, we are given Buddy Baker's backstory, where we find out he got his powers during Crisis, and he's trying to be a good superhero to be a good role model for his daughter. After landing in Zambesi, the team have to stealth their way towards the capital. As they're heading there, they witness the rebels attempting to take control over the country, attack some villagers. But weirdly, the leader of this band of rebels is a talking gorilla that speaks French. He has a bandolier and a beret. He's carrying a massive minigun, and he starts attacking civilians. The team leap into action, they defeat the rebels, and they arrest this gorilla and interrogate him, because luckily, Mari speaks French. This gorilla, who identifies himself as Mala, says that they can't stop the Emperor. The Emperor will take over the entire world. Long live the Emperor! And they knock him out. The team work their way closer to the capital of Zambesi, where General Mustafa Makai is cloistered up. They fight their way inside past even more superpowered animals, and Vixen is finally reunited with her uncle, who she hasn't seen in over 30 years, and he is acting weird. He's dressing in fine clothes, he's speaking with an accent that isn't his own, he's quoting plays and poetry and operas, he's listening to classical music, and his military tactics are genius. Look, this guy was a monster when Vixen was a little kid, but he was a fucking idiot. This man is amazing. And while they're talking to him, Beast Boy gets a painful headache. He snaps himself out of it, and they manage to defeat this guy. But then even more soldiers show up, and even more gorillas. The capital is besieged by gorillas in fighter jets, full on bombing this entire town. And so the team have to take the general and escape into the jungle. So now, with both Mala and this general in tow, the team go into hiding a little bit to try and figure out what's going on. As Beast Boy looks into Mala, he finds out something interesting. Mala was a hyper-intelligent gorilla created by Professor Otto Hearn, that scientist that Cyborg had fought just a couple months earlier. When Otto had been presumed dead and his lab had been raided, Mala, the hyper-intelligent gorilla, was recovered and taken to a sanctuary here in Zambesi known as the Enhanced Animalia Research and Recovery Sanctuary. You see, after human experimentation to give people superpowers was made illegal by the UN back in the 60s, mad scientists went a little ham making superpowered animals. And so EARS was established to house and study and hopefully recover a whole bunch of these animals. And as Beast Boy is researching this, the general wakes up from their fight. And now he's acting completely different. His accent is back to normal, his intelligence seems back to normal, and he is thoroughly confused as to where he is. Beast Boy also notices that his headache is gone. Vixen confronts her uncle, and we find out that he has no memory of the last several months, basically since this whole thing started. After Vixen had left the country and he could no longer get his hands on the Tantu Totem, this man dedicated himself to trying to find out some way to give himself immense power. And earlier this year, he decided to go check out the EARS facility to see if any of the superpowered animals' experiments could be adapted to human physiology. and he doesn't remember anything after arriving to Ears except that gorilla. Because of this, the team decide to head to Ears to check out what is up. As they continue their trek through the jungle, they are surrounded by what could only be described as chimera. A lion water buffalo hybrid, an alligator hippo hybrid, and a baboon hyena surround the team, and as they are just sort of sitting there shocked as to what they are facing, villagers start coming out of the jungle behind these chimera. These are people armed with whatever they could find around. They surround these people. The group try to explain that they are not here to hurt, but when the villagers see that they are escorting General Mustafa Makai, they don't believe them, and they tell them that they have to wait here and face judgment from Bwana Minyama. And when the team asks who is Bwana Minyama, a voice from up in the trees says, "I am." And we are introduced to Dominic Mindawe. He was a war journalist who had been reporting on Mustafa Makai's crimes. But Mustafa's men had shot him and fatally wounded him, and he had sprinted into the jungle just to hide and live his last few moments. But while he was there, he found the Bwana Minyama helm. He put it on his body just out of curiosity, and his wounds were healed. He was filled with the strength of 12 men, and as he later found out, he could now speak to animals and fuse them together into chimera. See, much like Vixen's Tantu totem, the Bwana Minyama helm is also an enchanted artifact enchanted by the spider god Anansi. Dominic was shot several years ago, and since then he has been trying to prove Mustafa Makai's crimes to the UN so that the world government would do something about this man. Vixen, Beast Boy, and Animal Man do manage to convince him that they are also here to stop him, and he agrees to let them go as long as he can hold on to Mala and the General. They, of course, agree. And as we get all the cool exposition about his helmet and his powers and all that stuff, he actually invites them to come watch something. He has recently recovered 2 animals that are fatally wounded. He doesn't like fusing chimeras unless the animals are dying. And he has found 2 that are. A wild horse and a fish eagle. He takes these 2 injured beasts and fuses them together. And they turn into a gorgeous white Pegasus with a black snout and black legs. Dominic says that this beast identifies itself as Jari. Dominic doesn't make any of the chimeras that he creates stay with him. He talks to them, and if they want to stay, they can. And in this case, Jerry didn't. Jerry wanted to fly off and find his own home. Dominic finds out that the team is headed towards Ears, and so he decides to escort them the rest of the way. And they finally get to the previously pristine facility. Ears was a luxurious animal sanctuary where these animals were living absolute lives of luxury. And this is what the team was expecting to find when they got there. But it wasn't. The glass was broken, the glass was dirty, vines were overgrowing the entire facility, it was completely run down, and the human staff were all dead. Instead, the whole facility had been turned into some strange gorilla city being run by sentient gorillas. So while the other team members decide to stealth in, Beast Boy transforms himself into a gorilla and walks right on through. Some of the guards try to stop him and ask who he is, and he says, "I'm Congo Bill, the golden gorilla." And when they say, "You're green," he goes, "I haven't showered." And they all just sort of shrug and let him continue. So Beast Boy gets to walk around this facility. These hyper-intelligent gorillas that had been sent here back in the 60s have been breeding this entire time, and it seems that over the generations, they just get smarter and smarter. And as Beast Boy is going through this place, all of them keep talking about the Emperor. And then Beast Boy's headaches come back. Beast Boy follows his headaches to their source because they seem to be getting worse the deeper into Gorilla City he goes. And finally, he comes across what can only be described as a throne room. We're introduced to 2 more apes. One is a gorilla known as Solivar, and the other is a chimpanzee known as Bobo. They are both sitting there begging to the Emperor to please stop this. The Justice League has been spotted recently. This is getting out of hand. They shouldn't be fighting to take over this country or the world. That's insane. They should be trying to make good diplomatic connections to get their city recognized as an official city, and maybe even themselves recognized as citizens of the world. But Solivar is yelled at to stop his talking by his brother, Emperor Grodd. Years ago, within my DC Cinematic Universe, you guys would have gotten a pre-movie short about a little gorilla baby that had psychically controlled two guards to kill each other. That baby is grown up. Grodd is a meta gorilla. He's not just hyper intelligent, he has insanely powerful psychic powers. Starting off, he killed all of the scientists within ears and then took their place. He had been studying what they had been doing, and he kept shipments of supplies and money coming to this facility. He kept falsifying reports about the animals to keep funding coming in, and whenever anyone came to inspect the place, Grodd cast a psychic projection over their minds so that they saw an up-and-running, perfectly maintained facility instead of the gorilla city he had created. Grodd is yelling at his brother to stop, and Solivar is refusing. Grodd tells Solivar and Bobo that they will cease this talk and kneel before him now, but both of them refuse. Then we see as Grodd's eyes glow, and both Solivar and Bobo are forced to kneel. And Beast Boy gets a splitting migraine from this. Grodd has his honor guard take his brother and Bobo and bring them down to the prison. The team work their way down to this prison, and they speak to Solivar and Bobo. They decide to side with Solivar and start a rebellion from within Gorilla City. So they begin going around recruiting other gorillas, apes, and superpowered animals in this facility that Solivar believed would be a great help against his brother. But most of that plan was actually come up with by Bobo T. Chimpanzee, who Beast Boy adores, because this dude acts exactly like Beast Boy's comedic persona, Detective Chimp. Beast Boy even pulls out his deerstalker cap, which apparently he just keeps on him in case he has to jump into the bit ever, and he hands it to Bobo. And Bobo is giddy. Bobo loves Sherlock Holmes, so when Beast Boy busts this out, he asks if he can have it, and Beast Boy asks him if he would do him the honors of becoming the real Detective Chimp. And that's kind of always what Bobo has wanted to be, so he very happily agrees to this. And finally, with a rebellion made, the team start the big final fight against Grodd. Everything is going okay, but Grodd starts psychically controlling the team. But for some reason, he can't get a grip on Beast Boy. Beast Boy is the only person Grodd is unable to control, and Beast Boy realizes what's going on. It's his Martian physiology. He didn't get a lot of the powers that his mom and grandfather had, but he's finding out he has psychic resistance. He knew this a little bit because his mom could never read his mind when he was a kid, and now he's finding out it goes a little bit beyond that. Beast Boy manages to push out his own psychic resistance to the team, and he starts off by passing it to Buddy Baker. Beast Boy frees Buddy from Grodd's control and then tells Buddy that he needs to fight Grodd here. Beast Boy has psychic resistance, but he doesn't have any psychic abilities. And Buddy is like, what are you talking about? I don't have psychic abilities. And Beast Boy says, no, but you have the ability to copy any animal's ability. My guy, Grodd's a fucking gorilla. And so Buddy Baker copies Grodd's psychic powers, and Buddy Baker and Grodd engage in a psychic battle, which frees everyone from Grodd's control. Realizing he's lost any advantage he actually has here, Grodd pulls out his trump card, and we see a massive kaiju-sized fist smash through the ceiling of the building in which they are fighting. The team look up and are greeted by the glowing green eyes of Titano. Titano was a chimpanzee that had been horribly mutated over decades of scientific experiments before he became a nearly 300-foot tall, laser vision having super chimp. The team leap into action and start fighting this guy, and Beast Boy realizes he can try something really cool. And so Beast Boy transforms into a 300-foot tall green version of Titano, and we get a kaiju monkey fight, because fuck yeah. Grodd is defeated and arrested and held in Belrev Penitentiary, as it actually has Star Labs designed chambers to hold psychic entities. So Grodd is gone. Dominic heals the fatally injured animals, creating more chimeras in this facility. Justice League bring in Star Labs, and Ears is reopened and fixed up, and Solivar actually helps run things. And this facility does get recognized, and the intelligent humanoid levels intelligent animals are given rights. And Beast Boy is praised by the Justice League for absolutely kicking ass on his very first mission as team leader. That is where the movie more or less wraps up, except you guys do get a stinger. You see, back down in that prison where Solivar and Bobo T Chimpanzee were being held, we were introduced to another gorilla, a white gorilla. See, Solivar and Bobo had completely written this guy off as Cuckoo Banana Shoes because he insisted he wasn't a gorilla. He was a human scientist named Gerard Schugel who'd managed to transfer his consciousness from his dying human body into a gorilla. That's totally crazy. But at the end of the movie, his cell is opened up. He is approached by a figure who holds out a hand and asks him if he would like to step in to the light.